Good afternoon and welcome to our ninth, in fact our second last lunchtime lightbulb series webinar in this first series on workplace bullying. We're really pleased to have you along. Welcome to those of you who are newcomers and of course welcome back to those of you who have joined us before. For those of you who haven't met me, although you probably should have by now, my name is Sarah Sabel and as usual I'm joined today by Michael Meir, Cal Director and Lecturer. Welcome Michael.
Hello Sarah, hello everybody. Nice to have the opportunity to talk with you again.
Now before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. This webinar will run for approximately 30 or 40 minutes depending on your questions at the end, and I will open up the second half of the webinar to your questions. So if at any point you have something that you would like to ask Michael, just jot it down in your questions or chat box on your dashboard there and I'll read it out and have Michael answer it for everybody to hear. This webinar will also be available for you to keep and watch over and over again. Once we're done here, I will email the presentation to you and the link to our very own Cal YouTube channel so you can have a look at this one and all the previous ones come before it. Now, let me ask you a pretty horrible question. How would you feel if you found rat poison with a note that was wishing you luck with your suicide attempt in your bag? Awful, just awful. But this is just one example of the horrible treatment that Brodie was subjected to whilst working in a cafe in Melbourne. Brodie took her own life in September 2006 after enduring ongoing humiliation and intimidation in her workplace. And then Victoria's anti-bullying legislation, now known as Brodie's Law, commenced in June 2011. This made serious bullying a crime punishable by up to 10 years in jail. In her address at the official opening of the Bully Free Australia Foundation headquarters in 2013, the Prime Minister Julia Gillard said, "Last year more than 2,500 Australians committed suicide. More than 450 of those were children. Bullying was identified as a factor in 80% of these deaths. That's 2,000 people. A recent report by the Productivity Commission has highlighted the significant impact of bullying in the workplace, which could cost an estimated $36 billion in productivity each year." The fact that the Fair Work Commission has been given $21.4 million over the next 4 years to fund legal remedies for victims of workplace bullying shows how serious the issue is and how important it is to be managing this issue proactively. But just what is workplace bullying? Workplace bullying is defined as any behaviour that is repeated, systematic and directed towards an employee or group of employees that a reasonable person having regard to the circumstances would expect to victimise, humiliate, undermine or threaten, and which creates a risk to health and safety. Now there are 3 words or clauses there that need highlighting in this definition. Repeated refers to the persistent or ongoing nature of the behaviour and can refer to a range of different types of behaviour over time. Systematic refers to showing or involving a method or plan. Whether behaviour is systematic or not will depend on an analysis of the circumstances of each individual case with this general guideline in mind. And risk to health and safety. This includes the risk to the emotional, mental or physical health of the person in the workplace. So then bullying is when people repeatedly and intentionally use words or actions against someone or a group of people to cause distress and risk to their well-being. These actions are usually done by people who have more influence or power over someone else or who want to make someone else feel less powerful or helpless. Bullying is not the same as conflict between people, like having a fight, or disliking someone, even though people might bully each other because of conflict or dislike. Bullying behaviour can be obvious and aggressive. Examples could include abusive, insulting or offensive language, behaviour or language that frightens or humiliates, belittles or degrades, including criticism that is delivered with yelling and screaming, teasing or regularly making someone the brunt of practical jokes, displaying material that is degrading or offending, spreading gossip, rumours and innuendo of a malicious nature. Assaulting and stalking are extreme forms of bullying that constitute a criminal offence. This type of behaviour should be reported directly to the police. Examples include, but are not limited to, harmful or offensive initiation practices, physical assault or unlawful threats. Workplace bullying can also be subtle and may include behaviours such as deliberately excluding, isolating or marginalising a person from normal workplace activities, intruding on a person's space by pestering, spying or tampering with their personal effects or work equipment, intimidating a person through inappropriate personal comments, belittling opinions or unjustified criticism. Covert behaviour that undermines, treats less favourably or disempowers others is also bullying. Examples here include overloading a person with work, setting timelines that are very difficult to achieve or constantly changing deadlines, setting tasks that are unreasonably beyond a person's ability, ignoring or isolating a person, deliberately denying access to information, consultation or resources, unfair treatment in relation to accessing workplace entitlements such as leave or training. And those figures were found from Preventing Workplace Bullying, a Practical Guide for Employees, South Australian Government 2012. Now we are going to run a quick poll while I've overloaded you with some information there. So you will see on your screen in just a second the question, have you or anyone you know, this could be a friend or a colleague, been the victim of workplace bullying? With two simple answers there, yes or no. Just wait a couple of seconds for people to pop their votes in there. At the moment we have a lot of yeses. Oops. Okay, I think everybody has popped in their answer there, and we actually have 100% of people in the room have said yes, Michael. So that's, well, what does that say?
Well, I suppose here it talks about, really shows the prevalence of bullying in our workplaces. So, Sarah, let's have a look at what we might have on today's agenda, if that's all right. Mm-hmm. But look, I'd like to start a little bit first up with some information from the University of Newcastle. Now, confirming that figure you did before of workplace bullying cost Australian businesses up to $36 billion a year, but some of the other facts of 53% of workplace bullies are female. In 24% of workplace bullying cases, the bullying was carried out by a mob. The bully had accomplices. Both the target of the workplace bullying and the witness to the bullying experienced a decline in productivity. 7 out of 10 people, that's 70%, were either target or a witness, leave their jobs as a result of that bullying. And in Australia, workplace bullying is estimated to be a cost around $20,000 for every employee in the workplace. So let's have a look at that. If you've got 100 staff and say 25% are bullied, that's 25 staff at $20,000 per person bullied, that's $500,000. That's correct, yes, that's $500,000. So on today's agenda, I think we should look at employer and employee responsibilities, the statistics, bullying, power, and the Peter Principle, the bullying cycle, what to do if you are bullied, preventative actions, and of course, your questions. So let's kick off with this first topic, employer and employee responsibilities. Sarah, as you know, employers and managers have a legal duty to protect the health, safety and welfare of their employees and of other people in the workplace whose health or safety might be affected by the work being undertaken. This duty could include risks arising from workplace bullying itself. Employers must assess risks to their employees and take appropriate measures to prevent or reduce risk and must consult their employees when considering decisions that affect their health and safety. Employees must contribute to the workplace health and safety by not putting others at risk, cooperating with any health and safety requirements of their employer, informing their employer of any workplace hazards of which they become aware, including bullying, and complying with any bullying prevention procedures that are implemented in the workplace. Now, I've got that from New South Wales Work Cover Being Bullied pamphlet. Well worthwhile looking at. On a very serious note, bullying is a big issue that it can impact on every organisation. In fact, workplace bullying is a severe and pervasive problem that plagues workplaces across the globe. Bullying is devastating to its targets. It causes serious harms to organisations and, frankly, has no meaningful value in any organisation. For individuals, the personal costs can include physical, psychological injuries, loss of enjoyment and satisfaction from work, and in some cases, the loss of a job and future career opportunities. For employers, the cost can include reduced employee morale and productivity, increased absenteeism and staff turnover, increased workers' compensation costs, and an overall loss of reputation. Frankly, these costs are just too great. Workplace bullying can be stumped out and stamped out through early intervention, increased awareness and understanding in the workplaces, both large and small. All workers, managers and employers have a leadership role to play in promoting a workplace culture where all employees and workers are treated with respect and dignity, and that bullying and harassment are not tolerated in any form. I really admire, you might have seen it last week, really admire the example shown by Head of Australian Defence Forces, General David Hurley, in his line in the sand speech about harassment and bullying in the services. Essentially it was stop or leave. Bang, that's it. If you don't like it, go. That was a great example. Now, Sarah, let's go back and have a look at statistics. This is a long list, but it's there to really show the importance of the task. These statistics provide an overview of bullying, and they come from the ACTU submission to the House Standing Committee. This is the Education and Employment Committee, and its inquiry into workplace bullying. Now, 53% of workers reported unhappy or offensive or oppressive workplaces. 54% said that the intimidating behaviour, shouting, ordering, belittle, happens in their workplace. Almost 30% reported abusive language. 44% said that people were too afraid to speak up about these behaviours or about their conditions and health and safety. Around 30% reported pressure of impossible tasks and demand to perform tasks for which they'd not been really and adequately trained. 10% were threatened with the sack. 10% had experienced physically threatening behaviour. 5% reported being assaulted at work. Almost 70% reported it was either a manager or a supervisor who was carrying out the bullying. 14% said it was the employer. Less than 30% said it was carried out by fellow workers or clients or customers. 60% said that workplace bullying affected their home or social life. 44% said they'd taken time off due to workplace bullying. 39% had taken sick leave, 8% recreation leave, 6% leave without pay. But here, only 4% received compensation. Workers reported a huge range of symptoms as a result of being bullied. Feeling stressed, 73%. feeling angry, 67%, feeling depressed, 59%, sleep difficulties, 48%, headaches and feeling helpless, 45%, feeling fearful, 29%, and stomach problems, 24%. Sadly, very sadly, only 18% said that anything was being done to stop the bullying behaviour.
Ouch, Michael, is there more?
Sarah, yes. Look, there's a myriad of statistics around workplace bullying, but look, I thought we'd just look at 3 more sets if I could, and I've taken these from the Victorian Public Service People Matters survey, which is a survey across the Victorian Public Service. Now, let's have a look at the experience of bullying behaviours and who bullies. Now, this first table, the experience of bullying. Now, what people said here was bullying and harassment are not tolerated in my organisation, and 81% of people said that, but that doesn't mean to say that bullying doesn't occur in it. 33.5% of people had witnessed bullying or harassment in their workplaces. Almost 20% had personally experienced bullying. But sadly, again, only 4.9% of people had actually completed a complaints form. If I could comment there, the evil that good men do when they do nothing. Sarah, this next one of bullying behaviours. Types of bullying behaviour reported in this survey. Verbal abuse, exclusion or isolation, psychological harassment, intimidation, being assigned meaningless tasks, impossible tasks, deliberately changing rosters, deliberately withholding information. The average number of behaviours per respondent is almost 3. 3 types of behaviours being subject to. And then who bullies? Fellow workers, about 33%. Groups, about 8%. The immediate manager or senior manager. Now, when you look at that, that's almost 45% of bullies in the workplace are the immediate manager or senior managers. Subordinates, small percentage. Customers, about 9%. Members of the public, 5%. The average number of perpetrators per respondent, 1.3. Look, those statistics are consistent with Australia-wide research. The figures can't be denied and or hidden. Frankly, it's really time for action, particularly by HR professionals, to ensure that bullying is prevented or minimised.
Well, Michael, these figures are quite damning, aren't they? With the ACTU figures for the private sector and the VPS figures for public servants, it seems like bullying is endemic and across all jobs and sector types. I mean, you often hear about apprentices and their silly initiations going too far, but I had no idea that it was so widespread.
And so pervasive.
Exactly. So, Michael, let's move on to the next topic here we've got today, the bullying, power and the Peter Principle. What has bullying got to do with power at all?
Bullying is a very dysfunctional way to try and gain or retain power, rather than a more acceptable method of negotiating or discussing the matter in order to come to a mutually acceptable agreement. In the long run, it always creates a lose-lose situation. It's a tactic commonly used by the emotionally immature and dysfunctional members of our society, and it's often used to gain or retain self-esteem through the abuse of power by traumatising others. Let me show you what I mean here. Now, for the individual, there are various reasons why a person may bully another person in the workplace. It could be to do with power, for example. A person may use their position of power or their physical dominance over others who are perceived to be weaker. The bullying is often dependent upon the perceived power of the bully over their victim. Self-esteem. Bullies may often put others down to boost their own self-esteem and confidence to help deal with their own personal feelings of inadequacy. Difference. An individual or a group may become targets of workplace bullying simply because others perceive them as being different or new. A perceived threat. Some people bully others because the other person is perceived as a threat to them, either personally or to their position within an organisation. An organisational culture. The culture of an organisation is often shown by its values and beliefs and what's considered to be normal behaviour. When the culture is positive, it encourages individuals to adopt appropriate behaviours that respect others. Look, conversely, when employees find themselves in a negative culture where inappropriate behaviours and attitudes are encouraged or condoned by management, bullying might be seen as normal behaviour for the majority of people in the workplace. Look, other organisational factors can include people may harass or bully others due to dissatisfaction with organisational arrangements. These things could be job insecurity, downsizing, changes such as new managers or supervisors, new rosters, new procedures, inadequate supervision, changes in ownership, introduction of new technologies, inadequate support or training, poor skills, practices in people management. Workplace arrangements can also have an impact here. Some workplace arrangements mean that employees or work groups may be separated from supervisors and others in the workplace. This can allow bullying to go undetected quite often and prevent effective monitoring and leadership. These things can have contributing factors here: the physical workplace or the physical layout, employees being located in different offices or work locations or even interstate, work scheduling including field work or shift work, and people in positions of authority separating individuals from co-workers. Look, the resolution of these issues here is just way too big a topic for today, but there's one very important issue about the abuse of power that I think it's very important we discuss.
And that abuse is?
Sarah, it's an abuse that occurs when the Peter principle kicks in.
Okay, you've got me. What's the Peter principle?
Oh, Sarah, way back, well before you were born, Sarah, way back in 1969, Lawrence Peter and a bloke called Ray Hall released a book called The Peter Principle. What this says is that in organisations, people tend to rise or get promoted into positions beyond their level of competence.
I remember that old saying, incompetence breeds incompetence, but surely that's just a bit of a joke, isn't it? It wouldn't happen now.
Oh, Sarah, sadly no. No, it's not a joke, and it's very prevalent today. You've had enough experience to observe people in positions beyond their competence. In fact, I'll bet that all our listeners today who are with us have come across incompetent people in key positions in organisations. You would have seen the carnage that they cause as they flounder about trying to retain control or out-of-control situations of their own making.
Yes, unfortunately I have seen that when people go into survivor mode and they start to become bullies and to micromanage in a vain attempt to remain in control, I suppose.
Yeah, Sarah, when people get under pressure, very often their B behaviour tends to surface. And when things get beyond their competence, their dysfunctional side tends to really kick in. Over-controlling and micromanaging is a dysfunctional way to try to manage. It creates havoc amongst those who are subjected to it. Look, is it a form of bullying? Yes, of course it is.
And can this be prevented?
Yes, of course. Managers and management can play a very preventative role here. Things like not promoting people beyond their levels of competence, providing training and support to people as they progress into new positions, conducting proper performance reviews to see how people are really getting on, ensuring competence-based promotion and succession planning, and making sure that people have got the required emotional intelligence and maturity to manage other people. These are just 5 strategies, but the really big one is to take immediate rectification action when the symptoms of micromanagement appear.
So, Michael, micromanagement can really cause damage.
Oh, Sarah, just ask anybody who's been micromanaged and ask them what was the effect on them.
Michael, I've heard people talk about the power and control wheel of bullying, but perhaps you could tell us a bit about that.
Sarah, this wheel's been around in various forms since the 1980s. It's a very good tool to test the symptoms of workplace bullying. It shows and describes 8 forms of workplace bullying that are directed at retaining power and control. Now, you can see them there as you go around: the use of intimidation, using emotional abuse, isolation, minimising. If we go in there and look at minimising and denying and blaming, where we go around and dismiss abuse as insignificant, denying that's occurring, shifting responsibility to the target, making counter-accusations of bullying. If we go to the use of other people, promoting feelings of guilt about colleagues and clients, undermining personal achievement, quality of work, threatening to remove favoured roles and responsibilities. Sarah, as we go through and around that wheel, we've probably all seen various aspects of those behaviours. If we look at use of privilege, promoting powerlessness, removing decision-making from people, assigning menial tasks, defining and redefining roles. Sarah, they're all there. We've probably all seen them. It's a very good litmus test for what's going on within your organisation. Look, Sarah, I know you've been doing your usual research for this webinar, and well done. Now, what advice can you provide about a person and what they can do when they're being bullied?
Sure, Michael, I'd love to. Well, everybody should be aware of their organisation's workplace bullying policies. They should know how to report a bullying incident and report any threatening or bullying behaviour. If an individual is bullied, they should tell the bully that their behaviour is unreasonable and inappropriate and that you want it to stop. Of course, this can be very difficult if the perpetrator is your boss. Immediately write it down: time, date, place, what was said, the full chapter and verse. This is very important, as a written record will make it easy to recall exactly what was said at a later point in the investigation, if there is one. So make sure that you put the date and time and any other such details like location and who else was present and so on. Don't ignore what happened. Talk it through with someone you can trust. So if you don't have someone at work that you can talk to, then go home and talk it through with your partner or a friend, even the cat if there's no one else. You need to get it out rather than suppress it. Get advice from your workplace health and safety representative. Talk to HR. Use work health and safety procedures to report the situation. Talk to WorkSafe. Talk to the Human Rights Commission. They have a complaint handling service that can investigate and resolve complaints in discrimination, harassment and bullying that are covered by federal discrimination law. Talk to your legal representative. Some large organisations may have an employee assistance program or service that you can contact free of charge and entirely confidentially, and talk to a professional counsellor who can provide professional advice and support. See a doctor if necessary. Seek professional counselling and advice, but most of all, don't ignore it. If they see somebody else who is being bullied, then it's really important to write it down and definitely report it. It does take courage to act, but remember, as Michael said a few moments ago, there really is no such thing as an innocent bystander. The evil good men do when the good do nothing.
Sure, that's very, very good advice. And look, I just want to follow up on your last bit about the evil good men do when they do nothing. Fear thrives in silence, and reporting it is a great way of dealing with it.
Okay, so Michael, let's move on to our next topic here, the preventative actions. What can employers do? And is there an obligation here? Is there legislation that employers must comply with, or do we just have to hope that they know what the right thing is and that they do the right thing?
Sarah, you mentioned a minute ago having comprehensive policies and procedures in place goes a long way to ensuring bullies can't find a foothold, and of course encouraging a culture of respect and openness, and one that revels in diversity, also provides a strong and positive foundation where such negative behaviours are just not tolerated. As you mentioned, legislation, well, yes, every employer has a responsibility to provide a safe workplace environment where there's no violence, harassment or bullying. This protects your right to work, and in Australia there are also laws in place to protect employees from forms of bullying and harassment. The Australian Human Rights Commission has a lot of information that's very helpful for employers and employees on their website, as well as some very useful fact sheets. So if you want to check with you're complying with the law and basic human rights of all employees, then I suggest you check this site out. Also, look, if you find you're in the middle of a situation that might involve bullying, you just don't have enough information or reason to directly intervene, you can download a number of useful brochures and fact sheets on various forms and types of bullying that you can give to people that you're concerned about. You can also obtain useful information on bullying from the Fair Work site. So, Sarah, in answer to your question, yes, employers do have a definite duty and obligation under the law to ensure that all their employees are safe from bullying, and there's quite a bit of useful information available to assist you to ensure you maintain a safe and healthy workplace. But unfortunately, that isn't enough by itself. So, look, could I suggest a few points for an organisation to keep in mind? Very clear avenues of redress, very clear and fair procedures and processes for resolving grievances that have the very clear support of management. Leadership. This underpins the integrity of the organisation as modelled by the senior management team. Management behaviour needs to be consistent with the organisation's values, and where living the code of conduct is acknowledged and rewarded across the organisation. The work group respect for each other, the use of time and resources efficiently to support each other. There is an integrity and efficiency and cohesiveness within the work group relationship. Management being effective communicators, treating their staff with dignity and respect, encouraging and value employee input and being approachable to discuss concerns and grievances. Equal opportunity where difference, in whatever particular shape or form, is not a barrier to success, where meritocracy prevails. Collecting data regarding the prevalence and characteristics of workplace bullying. Data can help organisational leaders make informed decisions regarding the appropriate steps to take to mitigate bullying in their organisation. Bring together managers, supervisors, HR staff to ensure that workplace bullying prevention programs adequately address internal threats by then fostering organisational culture that treats employees with dignity and respect, encouraging employees to report any bullying behaviour, and to make sure that these reports are taken seriously and acted on promptly by all leaders across the organisation. Providing bullying prevention training to all employees. Supervisors should also receive training in conflict resolution, accessing internal and external resources to deal with workplace bullying, and the consistent and effective application of employee discipline. Prompt, timely, appropriate and consistent response to reports of workplace conflict, and endeavour to resolve them before they escalate into bullying incidents. Lastly, an organisation's HR department can monitor its human resource programs to ensure that they are operating as intended and not unduly adding to stress in the workplace. For an example, an organisation can use its processes to address bullying by getting its processes right, looking at recruiting and selecting, prompt action and intolerance of dysfunction, through its performance management systems, through team rewards, through education and training, by roles and responsibility values, their KRAs and KPIs and associated with reward and recognition, through the organisational culture and career progression and career paths.
Wow, thanks Michael. That's quite a lot of information to take in there. Some really great preventative methods and strategies there. So we are running short on time as always, but we are going to ask a few questions for you, Michael. Here's a bit of a long and juicy one for you as we get going. One of the girls I work with is very timid and lacking in self-confidence, so she can be a bit annoying because she keeps interrupting us all the time, asking pretty stupid questions and looking for reassurance. Lately, though, I've noticed a change in her behaviour where she has withdrawn from us and just doesn't say anything anymore, but also doesn't get the work done that she needs to, or if she does, it's often done poorly and has to be fixed. Her work and her attitude have really gone downhill, and I have a feeling someone is bothering or perhaps even bullying her, and I don't have any real evidence. It's just a strong feeling I'm getting. What can I do? Gosh.
Sarah, it's really important here to record chapter and verse, specific things. Again, so it's not generalised. Once you've got some of these specific things, I quietly take the person aside, maybe not necessarily in the workplace, and just have a discussion with her where you open up that you, in general terms, that you're sensing that things aren't right, and start to see what response you get. And then the purpose of having the specific instances, if she asks or he asks, what are you talking about? You then can say, look, on such and such a time I observed this or saw that. So you've got specifics to talk about.
Okay, and the second question here. I am managing a poor performance issue at the moment where I'm meeting with my staff member every week to review his KPIs and progress against the goals we set each week. Our last meeting got a bit heated, and at the end he mentioned that I was bullying him. I am now really anxious and scared as I don't want a bullying charge against me, but at the same time I feel like I'm following due process and doing everything right. What can I do?
Sarah, then, well, first of all, I'd be assessing whether or not the task that the person is doing are within their degrees and levels of competence and whether they actually can achieve their KPIs. Now, if all of those things are there, then I'd be certainly, first thing, I would be recording every conversation and situation. I'd be providing some training to them. I'd be monitoring results. If that's not working, I could reassign them perhaps to different duties. But along the way, I would be most certainly letting people know that the consequences of their behaviour, etc., but follow the procedures and processes.
Okay, great. So is there an actual law against bullying, or is it just included as part of the harassment legislation?
Sarah, in Victoria, yeah, look, there is a specific law called Brodie's law, which came into force in 2011, I think. Now, it's part of Crimes Act, and it's an add-on to a stalking provision, and it deals with severe bullying, which is there's various definitions of it. Frankly, it's a bit inadequate. So again, what I'd suggest is there are other areas that we can look at in here around legislation. First of all, there isn't a specific law dealing with bullying in Australia. You might think so, given the size of the problem and its frequency, but there isn't. It's caught up in various things. There's workers' compensation legislation, there's Fair Work Australia, there's various OH&S legislation, and there's the criminal law in respect of Brodie's law. But all in all, it's a bit of a mishmash. Funnily enough, there isn't a common definition of bullying across the in Australian legislation. At the moment, there's a federal government inquiry into workplace bullying, and hopefully that will result in changes to the Fair Work Act, where this can be dealt with appropriately in that forum.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. We are well and truly out of time. Thanks for sticking around. If you didn't get your question answered, please do feel free to email it through to me later on today or at any time. Thanks for today, Michael, and thanks to everybody who joined us. I do hope you've enjoyed the second last of our Lunchtime Lightbulb series and that you now have a better understanding of, the implications and the horrible nature of workplace bullying and how we need to eradicate it from all our workplaces. Well, from our lives, really. Also, if you didn't know, Cal has a short course on bullying. In fact, we have a number of short courses on a wide range of management, HR, sales and PM topics that you can find on our website. And all these courses can be offered in-house in your organisation for groups as small as 5 or as big as necessary. So our contact details are up on the screen. You can visit our website, have a look around at what we're offering, send us through an email, give us a call, like us on Facebook, and go back and watch all of the videos, including this one, on our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining us. We hope you've had a great time. We've certainly enjoyed ourselves, and we hope to see you again next week. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Sarah. It's a very important topic that just has to be addressed. It can't be swept under the carpet.
Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.